You're walking through your neighborhood when the sounds reach you first. Boots pounding pavement, voices rising in unison, a parade again. You step aside as the column passes, row after row of brown-shirted men in perfect synchrony. The drums hammer your chest. Flags ripple with violent confidence. A brass band belts the horsed vessel lead. You know the tune by heart, whether you like it or not. This is the local SA unit, the Sturmabteilung, also called the Stormtroopers. Not soldiers exactly, but they carry themselves like they are, like they own the streets. You nod to them as they march past, because not nodding might be interpreted the wrong way. And in 1930s Nazi Germany, every facial twitch is a political act. They call it Gleichschaltung, the coordination of everything. Civil life, culture, sport, media, nothing escapes it. Your bowling club now opens every match with a pledge to the Führer. Your choir rehearsals start with a salute. Even your local bakery displays little cardboard signs. Only German goods sold here. No one asked for this. But here it is. One of your neighbors, Herr Weber, used to run a bookshop. Quiet man, fond of Dickens and Dostoevsky. One day you walk by, and the shop's been renamed Das Deutsche Buchhaus. All foreign literature gone. New posters in the window, bold fonts, aggressive slogans. Reading makes the German spirit strong. You go in, try to find the old poetry section. It's gone, replaced by a children's book about how to spot a Jew. You buy a newspaper, because of course you do. The kiosks stock only Der Stürmer or Völkischer Beobachter now. The headlines scream conspiracy, purity, strength. Even the weather forecast feels angry. Clear skies for the fatherland. You read it, because not reading might draw questions, and reading too slowly might draw worse ones. Historians still argue whether daily German life was driven more by fear or enthusiasm. But you, in your modest apartment, brushing dust off your radio, don't have the luxury of debate. You just have to keep up appearances. The radio crackles to life. It's Volksempfänger, the people's receiver, cheap, widely distributed, and designed to pick up only government-approved broadcasts. You get the Führer's speeches, martial music, maybe a folk story here and there. A fringe fact: one early model had no volume knob. Too loud, too bad. You were going to hear the message, like it or not. The voices on the radio talk about renewal, unity, cleansing, and somewhere in between the lines, the unspoken message: conform or disappear. You attend a local meeting, mandatory, of course. The community hall's been redecorated. Red banners, black swastikas, photographs of Aryan families smiling like toothpaste ads. The speaker shouts about loyalty, about the rebirth of Germany. Everyone claps at the right times. You clap too. Your palms sting. Afterward, there's beer and sausages. A man jokes about the old days. Another warns him, careful, people talk. The laughter dies. You wonder when everyday life became theater. When every gesture, every word, started carrying political weight. You used to complain about taxes, roadwork, weather. Now, you nod at slogans like they're gospel and hope no one notices hesitation in your voice. You pass your barber's shop, the same chair, same tools, but now there's a portrait of Hitler near the mirror. A sign reads, "We serve only loyal citizens." You don't ask what that means. You just get your trim and pay. You tip extra. You spot children playing outside. They're not tossing balls or chasing dogs. They're marching. One kid plays guard. The rest pretend to be prisoners. You pause. Smile weakly. A mother watches nearby, arms folded with approval. "They'll make fine soldiers," she says. You nod. You don't say what you're thinking. Sometimes you meet with friends in private. Very private. A trusted few, behind drawn curtains, whispering about how strange everything feels. You sip weak coffee. Voices low. No one says resistance. No one says wrong. You just murmur things like, "It wasn't always like this," or "Do you remember when we could read what we liked?" A car idles outside. Everyone falls silent. It drives away. No one finishes their drinks. You get letters from a cousin in Munich. He used to be louder, more opinionated. Now his handwriting looks smaller. His stories are cautious. He signs off with "Heil Hitler." You know he doesn't mean it, but he writes it anyway. You go to the cinema one night. The film starts with newsreel clips. Factories roaring, youth groups saluting, Hitler visiting the countryside. The crowd claps. Then a comedy plays. It's stale and safe and scrubbed of anything controversial. You laugh anyway. It's easier that way. The city feels cleaner now, more organized. There are fewer beggars, fewer drunks, fewer faces that don't quite belong. Some say that's a good thing. You say nothing, because when people disappear, the air grows heavier, but the noise dies down. And in that silence, people pretend everything's better. Historians often wonder how ordinary Germans lived like this, how they accepted or ignored the encroaching rot. But you already know, slowly, like a tide rising 1 inch at a time. By the time it touches your ankles, you're already soaked. You still go to church, though it feels different now. The sermons edge closer to nationalism. The crucifix now shares wall space with a framed quote from the Führer. You pray, but mostly out of habit. The real religion is fear now. On Sundays, you used to take walks. Now, you check the street before opening your door, just in case. You see a man in uniform everywhere you go. Sometimes it's the same man, sometimes you're not sure. Your daughter plays in the courtyard. She salutes you goodnight. You salute back. You hate yourself for it. The school bell clangs like a warning siren. You're not even a student, but the sound gets under your skin. Your youngest daughter hurries off down the block, clutching her lunch pail and workbook, her blonde braids bouncing. She's only 10, and already her lessons are wrapped in ideology like sausages in dough. Inside the classroom, the blackboard reads Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. One people, one empire, one leader. Every day begins with a salute. Every subject somehow loops back to race, loyalty, or nationhood. Math problems involve calculating tank production. Geography lessons focus on reclaiming lost German lands. Even biology is weaponized. Charts comparing skull shapes, diagrams claiming to prove Aryan superiority. You remember when she came home and asked you why her friend Ilse stopped coming to school. You paused too long before answering, and she tilted her head and said, "The teacher says Jews go to different schools now. It's better that way." You just nodded and said, "Yes, I suppose." Historians still argue whether these youth programs genuinely inspired loyalty or just programmed it. But when you see your daughter color in swastikas during art class and hum martial songs in the bathtub, you feel the answer in your chest and it tightens. Meanwhile, your teenage son, Eric, is in the Hitler Youth. Of course he is. By 1939, it's practically compulsory. The uniform came in a cardboard box, crisp and folded with the odd chemical smell of something mass-produced. He loves it. He hikes through the woods, learns to build fires, tie knots, march in formation. The camaraderie fills something in him. Something his father, the one who disappeared in 1934, used to provide. Eric comes home glowing. Talks about defending the fatherland, about honor, about destiny. You listen, smile weakly, and wonder when exactly he stopped asking your opinion about things. Sometimes he corrects you. "Don't say that about the party. You're not supposed to read that." Once, he even took a book from your shelf, Goethe of all things, and said it didn't feel German enough. You laughed, thinking it was a joke, but he didn't laugh back. There's a report floating around your town that a father somewhere in Saxony made a joke about Hitler at dinner. The next day, his son reported him. He vanished. People whisper about it in line at the grocer, like a campfire ghost story. But no one says it too loud. And everyone makes sure to laugh just the right amount when jokes are told. Not too hard, not too soft. Eric's group once held a mock trial. They picked a classmate to pretend to be a traitor and staged the whole thing. Accusations, confessions, punishment. You asked Eric what it was for. He said, "To understand justice." You wanted to say something clever and sharp, but you just said, "Oh," and drank your tea. You remember a time when teenagers rebelled by sneaking into jazz clubs, not by polishing their jackboots. A quirky little fact floats through your memory. Some German teens formed underground groups that resisted the regime in secret, like the Edelweiss Pirates or Swing Youth. They wore long hair, listened to band music, sometimes even painted anti-Nazi slogans. You heard of one boy who played American records behind blackout curtains. They caught him. He was 16, but that's not your Eric. He believes. He believes hard. He talks about the Führer like some kids talk about superheroes. When he prays, it's to both God and Germany, and you're not entirely sure which one he pictures first. And yet, when you pass his bedroom at night, sometimes you hear quiet crying. He doesn't know you here. You never mention it. You just leave an extra blanket folded at the door. Your daughter brings home a graded assignment, a family tree. All students had to submit one. Yours, fortunately, checks out. German blood, 4 generations back, her teacher wrote in red ink. You don't even want to think about what would have happened if it hadn't. Historians debate how deeply ordinary Germans bought into the racial ideology versus how much they just went along with it to protect their kids. But when your child's academic success hinges on proving you're not tainted, you don't have time for philosophy. Some children in town vanish. It's not broadcast, no headlines, but you notice it. One week they're in the schoolyard, the next, gone. Later you hear whispers about disabilities, asylums, relocation. Your neighbor's son had a limp. He doesn't anymore. Your neighbor never speaks of him. One day at the store, your daughter points to an old man with a curved spine and asks, "Why is he allowed outside?" You freeze. The cashier laughs. You don't. You receive a notice that Eric has been selected for a leadership program. It means more training, more ideology, possibly even promotion to a junior officer one day. He's ecstatic. You are not. You try to talk to him about music girls, the stars, anything that isn't politics. He listens politely, then says something like, "We must be strong first, Father. There'll be time for that after the war." He's 16. You consider hiding certain books, locking the drawer with old family letters, removing that one photo of your grandmother that might suggest, well, who knows what it might suggest. It's hard to parent when the state sits at your dinner table every night, smiling with clean teeth and a loaded briefcase. Your authority feels borrowed now, conditional. Like if you misstep, even your own children might return you to the customer service counter. Still, you tuck them in. You kiss their foreheads. You say things like, "Be brave and stay safe," even when what you really mean is, please don't believe all of it. Because in Nazi Germany, parenting doesn't end at bedtime. You wake to the rhythmic hum of planes overhead. Not a lot, just enough to remind you that the sky belongs to someone else now. The blackout curtains are still drawn, heavy and stiff, blocking out everything but the memory of daylight. You lie there for a moment and listen. It's not an air raid, just patrols. You hope. When you finally step outside, the city looks like it's holding its breath. The war is underway, and everything you once thought was stable now floats in a strange suspension. People walk faster, speak quieter, and look over their shoulders more often. You start to do the same. There's a ration card in your coat pocket. You always check that it's still there, even though you're not sure what you'd do if it weren't. Every item now involves a careful calculation. Bread, butter, soap, coffee. Forget about it. You drink roasted barley and pretend it's close. The shopkeeper raises an eyebrow when you linger too long by the sugar. You move on. You line up for potatoes and cigarettes. Though you don't smoke, you're trading them. Barter is the unofficial second economy now. And a pack of cigarettes can get you everything from aspirin to silence. Historians still debate how effective the Nazi war economy really was. On paper, it looked efficient, factories humming, production rising. But you know better. You see the corners cut, the quality slipping, the whispers about forced labor. A neighbor who works at the munitions plant tells you that the bolts keep snapping. Doesn't matter, he shrugs. They just make more. Every household contributes. You've donated pots, pans, even your old bicycle, melted down for scrap. Children collect acorns for some obscure chemical process no one quite understands. Housewives roll bandages at the community center. Every window displays swastikas and slogans because the absence of one is noticed more than the presence. Once you forgot to put yours up for the Führer's birthday. Just once. A man from the block warden's office came by to check on your health. You smiled, apologized, put the flag up before dusk. You've never forgotten again. The quirky bit, you hear someone managed to forge a ration book using nothing but potato starch and shoe polish. It's a tiny, silly act of rebellion, but it gives you hope. Not that you'd ever try it. Of course not. At work, everything is slower. Your boss has disappeared. No one talks about it. The new manager is younger, sharper, and much more interested in your political opinions than your work output. You learn to nod a lot, avoid certain jokes, and keep your mouth shut around newcomers. Sometimes he asks for updates that have nothing to do with your job. Who comes in late? Anyone seem disloyal? You know exactly what he's doing, and you give vague answers. Everyone works hard. Nothing strange to report. You want to scream, but you don't. You file the reports, staple the papers, and wait for lunch. There's a public board downtown where they post war updates. You glance at it like it's a weather forecast. Victory in France, progress in the east, enemies on all sides. The posters are bright, bold, theatrical. But your cousin writes from Hamburg and says morale is collapsing there. Bombs have turned his street to ash. He signs the letter with God save us all, then crosses it out. Mail is censored now. Every envelope sliced open and resealed. You write cautiously, filling your letters with nothing but news about the weather, the children, the garden. Your cousin writes back about the same. You both understand what you really mean. Historians argue whether the German population knew the full extent of what the regime was doing. You think about that often. You know what they say is happening out east. The ghettos, the relocations, the labor camps. But the details, the numbers, the reality, they come in fragments. You hear one version from the party, another from a frightened uncle, and a third from a Polish farmhand who lasted 2 weeks and never smiled once. Still, life has rhythms. You make soup, you sweep the sidewalk, you fix the radio when it crackles, you hum lullabies to your daughter and pretend they're not drowned out by the sound of distant artillery. One day, you find a leaflet on the ground, dropped by an Allied plane. It shows a cartoon Hitler with devil horns and bold English text. You hide it in your coat before anyone sees. At home, you read it twice, then burn it in the stove. But you feel strangely lighter afterward. like the outside world still exists. Another day, you hear music, real music, a jazz record, low and muffled, coming from an open window. You freeze. You shouldn't linger. You definitely shouldn't smile. But you do. You pass a line of women standing outside a bakery. No one knows if there's bread. They just hope. You join them. Because what else can you do? Inside the shop, the baker hands you a half loaf, smaller than your palm, and says nothing. You say nothing back. That's the transaction now. Silence and starch. The evenings are the worst. The lights stay dim, the windows covered. You sit in the half dark, listening to static, waiting for news, for sleep, for the end of something you can't even name. The sirens go off again, and this time they mean it. You grab your coat, your papers, the emergency tin of biscuits. You usher the kids into the basement. Your daughter clutches her stuffed rabbit. Eric doesn't come. He's at training. Your stomach coils at the thought. The walls shake once, twice, and dust falls from the ceiling. Your daughter whimpers. You hum a marching tune, slowly, like a lullaby. The irony is not lost on you. After the noise fades, you emerge. The sky is black, but nothing's burning nearby. Not tonight. You consider that a victory. The neighbor's window is shattered. He's sweeping up glass in his socks. You offer him tape. He nods. No one speaks.